Good YouTube, it's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV back at y'all with another one. So, WBA lightweight title contender, star boxer Rolando Romero, who's coming off a brutal 6-round knockout loss. Romero is 14 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 12 wins by way of knockout. He is 26 years of age, 5'8" with a 68-inch arm reach. He was brutally knocked out in a fight that he talked about and pushed for against undefeated 3-division world champion, superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis, who is now 27 wins, no loss, no draw, 25 wins by way of knockout. He is 27 years of age, 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. With that said, he talked up that fight. The fight itself, it did big numbers, okay? It did 350 to 400,000 pay-per-view buys reportedly, okay? It broke the live gate at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, May 28th. It did a $5 million gate, the largest boxing event gate at the Barclays Center in history. So he did big numbers. And now it seems like Romero is feeling himself. As Romero, he was called out by undefeated, unified, 3-belt welterweight world champion WBC, WBA, IBF, welterweight world champion superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be top 2 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, in Errol Spence Jr., who is 28 wins, no loss, and no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout. He's 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. But Errol Spence Jr., he's focused on the biggest fight in the sport of boxing between himself and undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is 38 wins, no loss, and no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He's 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, that's the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. But Errol Spence has now become a promoter, right, of Man Down Promotions. And he promotes undefeated, rising lightweight star title contender in Frank the Ghost Martin. Okay, Frank Martin, he's coming off of a knockout victory over Jackson Marinez 2 weeks ago. And Errol Spence, he called out Romero to fight Frank Martin. Okay, he said, you know, Frank Martin is going to knock you out, okay? Now, obviously, you know, that didn't go over well with Romero. So, he started to go bypass Frank Martin and say that he want to fight Errol Spence, okay? He started to call out Errol Spence. Say, listen, I want to fight Errol Spence Jr., right? Let's make that happen. And in doing so, right, now he's on a roll to trying to fight Errol Spence, talking about how big the fight is, talking about how much the fight would sell, you know, talking about how big of a draw he is. But in doing so, he decides that he's going to trash Terence Crawford. He said nobody wants to see Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. fight, which is completely false. The entire boxing world wants to see that. Casual boxing world, hardcore boxing world, they want to see Terence Crawford and Errol Spence face off, especially as for undisputed, okay? And so he says nobody wants to see it. And then he goes into detail and says, anyway, you look at the numbers and absolutely nobody supports Terence Crawford. He said that Terence Crawford doesn't know how to promote himself. He goes on to talk about his looks, which I could never understand another man talking about another man's looks, talking about how ugly Terence Crawford is what he said, which is utterly ridiculous, to say the least. And then he goes on to say that Terence Crawford, look at his numbers, he couldn't sell in Omaha, Nebraska. His own people, where he's from Omaha, Nebraska, they didn't support him, which is false, because Terence Crawford, he sold out his fight in Omaha, Nebraska. It did very well, you know. And then he goes on, now Terence Crawford's pay-per-views now haven't done as good as expected, but Rolly has hinged his wagon to Gervonta Tank Davis. We don't know how much Rolly can sell, because his first pay-per-view fight was with a guy who's already established in Gervonta Tank Davis. So he's saying that Terence Crawford can't sell. He's not a big draw. He's looking for big amounts of money, but he's not don't know how to promote himself, right? And Rolly is saying that the fight that everybody want to see is him versus Errol Spence, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Actually, people think it's laughable, Errol Spence and Rolly Romero. You understand? People looked at that fight and said, is this a joke, right? More so even than when 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia, who's a first ballot future Hall of Famer, was calling out Errol Spence and pushing for a fight with Errol Spence. And he got the fight with Errol Spence, but in the beginning, people was looking and laughing like, this can't be serious, right? They didn't take it serious. So Rolly, first thing first, talking about he's going to skip over now. He fights at 135, saying he's going to skip over 140, junior welterweight division. And he's going right to welterweight to challenge Errol Spence. Then he talks about Errol Spence's looks as well. Rolly is must-see TV. I give him that, okay? People are interested and intrigued to see Rolando Rolly Romero fight. Not because of his boxing skills, but because of his mouthpiece. He can sell a fight. He sold people and made people believe that he was actually going to beat Gervonta Tank Davis. And that's why many people tuned in, because initially when this fight was made, many people was questioning it and saying, why is Gervonta Tank Davis fighting Rolly Romero with 14 fights? Okay, he had 14 fights. He was with 12 wins by way of knockout. You know, no big fights, no title fights. He's never been on a big stage. Rolly even admitted that he never even had a press conference. He didn't even know what to say, how to act, or what to wear at the first press conference, because he never even had a press conference in his career. So he didn't know what to expect. And he was asking people, what should he do and how should he dress, okay? Then he said he figured out he's just going to be himself. He said that the powers that be told him, just be yourself. And so he decided that he's just going to be himself, and voila, you know, it's a gold mine. People want to see Rolly Romero compete. But it's because of how he sells the fight. Rolly Romero, you know, is void of fundamentals, okay? You know, he has power, you know, he is strong, he's committed to the sport, he's never out of shape, you know, but he lacks the fundamentals in the sport of boxing, okay? He's just not fundamentally, technically sound, and ultimately that's what got him knocked out against Gervonta Tank Davis. He made mistakes, okay? He went to a well too many times, and Gervonta Tank Davis, with his high ring IQ, skill set, boxing ability, athletic ability, and power, being a southpaw, and having experience, he brutally knocked out Rolly Romero, coming in, making another mistake, okay? And, you know, as far as Terence Crawford sell, you know, you can say that when you're comparing Terence Crawford to Errol Spence's numbers. That's a bargaining tool, that's a debate, you know, that's a negotiation tactic, right? For Errol Spence to get more money, or Terence Crawford to get more money, or however, right? They can do that amongst each other because, you know, they are the two major draws, okay? But when you're talking about Rolly, okay, Rolly, again, Terence Crawford, he did that against Victor Postol. Victor Postol is a hardcore boxing fans fighter, okay? Now, the Ukraine supports Victor Postol, but he doesn't have a huge following, okay? And then he did his second pay-per-view, which was with Amir Khan. Now, Amir Khan has a big name, and it reportedly did about 150,000 pay-per-view buys, okay? And then he did his third pay-per-view, which was with two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Sean Porter, okay? And then with the fight with Sean Porter, it reportedly did about the same numbers as the Amir Khan fight. But again, Rolly, we haven't seen him compete on pay-per-view. Now, again, he's a mouthpiece, right? And people, you know, they want to believe him, okay? So they're going to tune in because he can sell the fight. Absolutely, he can sell the fight. But Rolly, we need to see Rolly before he barks up the Terence Crawford tree and downplays Terence Crawford and said nobody wants to see it and say Terence Crawford's not a draw. I understand he's trying to place his name in the hat to fight Errol Spence, and, you know, he understands that it would sell, right? Because it's almost like a sideshow. You understand? Not that Rolly's a sideshow, but the fact that you got this guy coming up from 135, you know, he's a mouthpiece. He talks up a fight. He's coming off a knockout loss, and he talking about he want to fight the best welterweight, arguably in the world, in Errol Spence. You know, people are tuned in just because of the antics of it, right? The storyline, not because of his actual skill set in the ring, right? And so Rolly, if he wants that fight, Why don't you fight Frank Martin as a co-main event to Terence Crawford, Errol Spence? That would be a huge draw. That would do numbers, right? Rolly fight Frank Martin, co-main event to Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. But to say nobody wants to see it, he's completely incorrect. But I just think that it's entertaining to listen to Rolly Romero. He's good for the sport of boxing. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Road. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.